And let's rock it.
Good morning. You're listening to the Mac and Jack Sports Show on Northeast Streaming Sports.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Mac and Jack Sports Show, streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. On Mac Sports and the Northeast Streaming Sports Facebook pages. We're also on Zodiac TV most of the week. We're also on Twitter, Instagram. Like, share, comment, and please subscribe to the Northeast Streaming Sports YouTube channel as you get all the great NESSP shows. Our website is nessp.info. Check it out. Shows, information, our guests. I'm Mac with your co-host, Jack Hirsch, legendary boxing writer and former president of the Boxing Writers Association of America, bringing you national sports with special focus, folks, on Northeast professional sports from New York, Boston, and Philly. Good morning, Jack. How are we doing today?
Hey, good morning, Mac.
You know, Jack, in this show, we do review all the big stories of the last week. This week, we're just finishing up. And, folks, this is our last day of our work week on the show. We're back at you Wednesday, 8 to 10 a.m. And you know, we're on Northeast Streaming Sports. And a quick word about them. Northeast Streaming Sports is like your private sports network. You can comment, question. Some shows you can call in and comment. So we're not like the big networks where they have their own format and you got people on there talking at you. We kind of talk with you. So that's what makes us different. That's what makes the Mac and Jack show, sports show, different, where we have your comments, we pop them up on the screen, and as long as they're topic relevant, you know, we're not going to just throw anything on the screen, but we love to have the interaction with you guys watching and listening to us. So, you know, feel free to comment on the show as we go along. Jack, anything going on before I start getting to all our topics and stuff?
Well, what's going on? The NCAA tournament. I mean, now we have the Elite Eight. I love the NCAA tournament. Everything is always cut in half. That's the best way to remember. It starts with 64. You win one game. You're down to 32. You win the next game. Now you're in the Sweet 16. You win the third game. Now you're down to the Final 8, meaning you're one game away from the Magic Final 4. That's what these 8 teams are at, one game away from the Magic Final 4. And once you make the Final 4, then it's the memory of a lifetime. You could always say you're in that exclusive club of the Final 4.
Well, Jack, you know, when we started on this, of course, we started talking about the NCAA. You didn't seem too thrilled about it. But now it seems like you've been getting into it over the last week or so.
Yeah. I mean, teams on the East Coast, they were making a little bit of a run. Syracuse, who got eliminated yesterday, they had a hot shooting hand. Then they went to the Sweet 16. And you just kind of wondered whether they could take it a little further. But then reality set in. Rutgers, it's going to be normally you hear the term long winter. It's going to be a long summer, if there's such thing as a long summer. And especially the seniors, the guys who are not coming back, the game they lost to Houston, that they kind of let get away. And now Houston is in the Elegant 8. And imagine Houston goes all the way, and that's a game that Rutgers could have, and you could argue should have won. So it's something that's, I'm sure, always going to bother the players on that team.
Well, that was one of the topics for the week that I wanted to get into. You know, a lot of the big schools that normally make a lot of noise in the tournament, you know, the Dukes, the Kentuckys, Kansases, the North Carolinas. They're not there this year, Jack. For COVID, because of COVID, because of the new, recruiting method they're using, come here and we'll get you out of here by sophomore year, has kind of put them in a position where all these coaches that were hailed as the greatest coaches in college basketball now have weaker programs in the smaller schools, Jack.
Well, the NIT tournament was always called a consolation tournament. It was never too prestigious. But can you imagine a Duke-Kentucky final in the NIT tournament?
Yeah, right.
Normally, people who wouldn't be watching would be, wow, Duke's playing Kentucky. They would forget it wasn't an NCAA game. But you talk about some of the legendary coaches like Coach K, for example, who's not in the NCAA tournament. I mean, Coach Rick Pitino with Iona got in. And Iona's not the biggest program, but he was saying a couple of weeks ago, and it might just be words, he's at Iona to stay. That's where he's going to finish his career. He's not looking for advancement anymore. And that would be a nice thing to see Iona take off, not only as a school that could maybe make an NCAA tournament and get eliminated, but truly become a powerhouse, on the national scene. That would be a really nice thing to see. And Coach Pitino gives them that type of credibility.
Well, we're transitioning, like you said, into the Elite Eight. I mean, we still got a couple games left in the Sweet 16. You've got Florida State matched up against Michigan, UCLA, which is a historic powerhouse, going way back. They're going to be playing Alabama, who's not known for their basketball. They're known for their football. So that's kind of cool. Oregon is playing USC. Creighton is the only one left from the Big East, Jack. We'll see. They're going up against number one Gonzaga. I don't know what their chances are going to be.
I think the story of this tournament, if it wasn't the story going in, it's certainly the story. The closer we're moving towards the finals is Gonzaga. They've never won it. They've had a great program for years. Is this the year they finally win it? And if they don't, it's going to be quite a letdown. I mean, having an unbeaten season. Alabama's intriguing. Very, very intriguing. If someone's eventually going to upset Gonzaga, it could be Alabama. I mean, and you think of Alabama, that's like you mentioned, Mac. Football, when you think of Alabama, but you kind of wonder what that would mean for the school. If they had a choice, I kind of wondered the student body, if they had a vote. Alabama, the basketball team, wins this year, the Alabama football team wins next year. Who they would prefer winning if they could only have one of the two. That would be real. Yeah, that would be intriguing to see how they'd vote.
So we do have a couple Elite Eight matchups already and ready to go tomorrow, Jack. We got Arkansas versus Baylor. I think Baylor is the number one seed there. You got Oregon State versus Houston, one of my Final Four picks. I mean, the two Oregons are still alive, which is unbelievable, right? That doesn't happen too often.
No.
And you got Baylor, who's one of the favorites to win it. Maybe
Baylor's a power.
Yeah.
Powerhouse. Yeah.
And USC in there. Houston normally has a good basketball team, right? College basketball team, yeah.
I mean, traditionally, but we'll see this year. I mean, Houston was quite lucky, like I mentioned a while ago. They somehow got by Rutgers. Rutgers let that game get away. Houston was pretty much beaten that game and just managed to come back, hang around. Rutgers tried to kill the clock when they didn't have a big enough lead and there was too much time left. So strategically, it was a big mistake, on their part. But I still think all eyes point to Gonzaga. I really do. That's the compelling story in this tournament. Gonzaga, it seems like they've been around forever now.
Yeah.
I mean, they've never been considered a powerhouse, and rightfully so, because they've never won the tournament. But they're always hanging around. They're always relevant year after year after year. They're relevant, and they just never seem to have gotten it done. And but they have the type of team this year that people feel finally, should get them over the top. But this one and done tournament, is anything could happen on any given game. That's what makes it so much fun.
Definitely. I mean, this is where the excitement of the tournament kind of outweighs the participants, right? I mean, like you said, Gonzaga is normally in the Sweet 16 anyway, sometimes makes it to Elite Eight or Final Four. They've been close, but, this is where, sometimes the tournament outweighs the coaches, the participants. People are just excited about the tournament every year. And I don't know if it matters who's in it, Jack. You know what I mean?
You want to know something, even if you don't particularly care too much for basketball, especially college basketball, you could enjoy this tournament because geographically it has all the places in the United States. So it's a lot of fun to see city against city,
right?
University against university. I mean, for pure fun, nothing compares to the NCAA tournament. I mean, the baseball playoffs are great, but it's not fun. The NFL tournament's not fun. The NBA playoffs aren't fun. The hockey playoffs aren't fun. The NCAA tournament is fun.
Yeah.
It's fun. You don't even have to like sports to enjoy it. You hear it because we all know about these universities across the country, and there are a lot of smaller towns, a lot of schools that don't have as big a name. I think what we like to attach ourselves to also sometimes is Cinderella stories, the universities that are in a story making a run at the title. I think we like that. That's why maybe the movie Hoosiers was so popular, the high school team from Indiana, small school, unexpected. We enjoy that type of thing. One of the smaller schools, one of the smaller programs that's still hanging around. Are they still going to merge? But it's funny about Gonzaga, even though they're not a small program per se, because they never won it, they're like in the middle between a big program and a small. So the program there to me is compelling. Is Gonzaga finally going to get, the elephant off their back?
Yeah, I mean, the brackets sure don't hurt the excitement going around. This is where I think, Jack, it kind of reminds me of boxing and metaphorically, right? I mean, you can be a New York Giant fan, or you could be a New England Patriot fan, and you could be a Jet fan and root a diehard fan, but yet you all may like the same boxer. And I think this is sort of like that. You may not be a fan of these universities, but you're a fan of the competition. You're a fan of how it's run. And this is what makes people who really don't follow college basketball a lot get involved in it. You know what I mean?
And I think, too, you hear the crowd. Crowds are being let in now. I mean, not to full capacity, but seeing the student body, it's kind of like heartwarming. You see they have on the clothes, the emblems of their school, how into the game they are. You hear the crowd's enthusiasm. And the college game is fast-paced. Something about it, it's fast-paced. They don't waste a lot of our time. They're up and down the court. Even a timeout seems shorter. They don't overdo strategy to the point where, where like we're watching, we get bored, the inbounds pass, an extra timeout, it is, or that. I mean, it's just a fast-paced game, and the kids playing the game, the college kids, their enthusiasm is great, on the court.
Yeah, I definitely agree with all what you just said there. So, folks, today we have up Anthony Servino, who will be with us at 9:30. He's our fantasy football / NFL analyst. We also have Robert Butler before him at 9, Sports Scope host. Does a lot of commentary, very popular show, very popular over there. So they'll both be in today with us as we go through all these stories, and it will be relevant to what's going on. Now, Jack, I really don't like talking about this story. But it's in the news. It's probably the biggest story out there, and I think it will continue to be. I think it will continue dominating the media. And this, of course, is the allegations against Deshaun Watson. From what I understand, 4 more women have come forward to sue Watson. I think from what I understand, it's the same lawyer representing all 16 women now. Reports say that a blackmail attempt was made by one of the alleged victims. And there's also a copy that was posted up, a non-disclosure agreement. And you can download these, Jack. You can download off the internet these non-disclosure agreements. It's a standard form with no writing on this form at all. It was the name Deshaun Watson was typed at the bottom. So a lot of back and forth in the media between Deshaun Watson's lawyer and, of course, this lawyer was representing these alleged victims. So I think this is being tried right now in the court of public opinion, Jack, before it even gets to any courts. Both lawyers trying to make strategic moves to get, I don't know, maybe the jurors on their side, the media on their side, to inflame either groups or to try to put out the flame. Like I said, I don't like covering this, but it's a big story. It's about a very popular, talented young quarterback who wants to be traded out of Houston. And there were some teams that would have given up a boatload, Jack, a boatload of picks, players to get this quarterback. And now, with the NFL investigating, you have the profession of masseuses, private masseuses. I mean, this is just eye grabbing. You know what I mean? Is it a money grab? Is it true? Is it exaggerated? I mean, we'll find out eventually whether this is all true or whether it's not, or if it's just exaggerated. But one thing for sure, Jack, if teams were interested in Watson before all this came up and were willing to give all this up, all these the boatload of picks, that value probably has dropped way down, Jack.
Well, I'm going to tell you something. The value has dropped down for the time being, at least. But even with what's going on right now at this moment, if Houston called a team and the price was right for that team, they didn't have to give up that much, they would jump at the chance to get Deshaun Watson right now. But you're right, as far as them aggressively going after him, let's reserve judgment. You know who I'm going to follow the lead of in this case? The NFL. As long as the NFL isn't suspending him, the NFL, they're looking into this very vigorously all along. I mean, they have their investigators looking into it around the clock. And if they feel there's any credence to this story about Deshaun Watson, they're going to suspend him. Okay, or put him on an inactive list for the time being, pending an investigation, more of an investigation. And then my opinion's going to be formed a little more. Then I'm going to think there must be something to it if the NFL's not allowing him to be active, at least for the time being. But until the NFL does that, I mean, I could play devil's advocate. I could say it's one attorney on the other side. He could rally a lot of women and say, look, there's going to be millions and millions to be made. And if you attach your name to it, you'll be part of gaining the monetary award. But then on the other end, I find it very hard to believe you can get so many women who would want to press some type of charges against someone. The more women that come out, the worse it looks for Deshaun Watson. Let's be honest about it. But usually I look to see, are they independent of one another? If they're independent of one another, then it looks terrible for Deshaun Watson, terrible. If it's all under the umbrella of one attorney, I want to look at it a little more carefully. In other words, I'm not passing judgment. I'm not saying that I don't believe the women involved. I'm not saying I don't believe Deshaun Watson. More has to come out. More is going to come out at this point.
Sure. I mean, there's no legal action right now, and it can lead to that. It can. I've seen it happen in the past. So let's take Colin Kaepernick, for example, right? He started that movement amongst some players to take a knee. And Colin Kaepernick was a lot better than some of the backup quarterbacks on a lot of teams. In fact, might have been able to start. But because of the unwanted publicity of this, in other words, the coach, the players, they don't want them answering questions about something outside the game, right? And normally the comments are pretty much all the same, right? We're improving, we're going to get better, we la la la. I mean, they pretty much all say the same thing. With something like this, they can't all say the same thing. In fact, they can't really comment on it. And it's a huge distraction to any organization, a young organization or an established organization. So if a team does decide to go ahead and trade for Watson amongst all this, isn't that going to just put a damper in their team, Jack, in the locker room?
Well, let me say the Colin Kaepernick example, okay? Colin Kaepernick took the knee. Had that been Deshaun Watson instead of Colin Kaepernick taking the knee and all, Deshaun Watson would be playing in the NFL.
Yes,
Colin Kaepernick should have a roster spot based on ability, without question. He's better than a lot of backup quarterbacks in this league. By the time Colin Kaepernick stopped playing or wasn't picked up by a team, I should say, he wasn't blackballed per se. Teams didn't say, oh, don't sign Colin Kaepernick. They didn't want the distraction of a backup quarterback being around. Had that been Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes, Tom Brady, Deshaun Watson, they'd all be playing in the NFL. Then you put up with the distraction a little more because the quarterback is such a great quarterback and such an impact player that you put up with it more. And yeah, Deshaun Watson would be a distraction at this point, any team he went to, but the reward of having him on the field, they feel would outdo that. And also, teams would be leery. Now, we don't know how this is going to play out with Deshaun Watson. A worst case scenario, if everything is true, all the accusations, it's not a career ender, okay? Worst case scenario from what we've heard so far, okay? Because right now it's civil suits. Did he do anything of a criminal nature per se? No one came forward with any type of criminal suit, to my knowledge.
Right. No one's filed charges. Right.
Right. Filed charges. So it's an ugly situation, and you got to feel with all the women out there. Deshaun Watson could have used better judgment. Whether he did anything that would merit any type of suspension, I have no clue. Okay? But you get the feeling he could have used better judgment just by not allowing himself to get in, a certain type of situation.
Well, so that calls one last question I got for you. I want to cover with you really quick about this, and then we'll push on. So what he did was he got private masseuses, right? He probably thought this was better than example what Robert Kraft did, going to a masseuse parlor, right? Where a massage parlor where you can be seen, videotaped, whatever. So he does this privately because he is a star in the NFL. So does this make players think a little bit, even privately? I mean, if you're trying to do a private thing because you don't want to be out there in the public doing things and being caught on camera, well, now if you do this private thing, it's a he said, she said thing. So does this even stop that, Jack?
Let me just say, if Deshaun Watson is guilty of the things he's accused of, yeah, there've got to be consequences if he went too far. If he went too far, acted a certain way, but we don't know. I mean, listen, they're young men, Mac.
Yeah.
I mean, I had a friend talking to me. We were talking a couple of days ago, catching up on things, laughing about old times. and I reminded him of some things, that went on when we were young. There were fun stuff, nothing that would get anyone in any type of legal trouble in the slightest, and nothing that was morally wrong either. But he was telling me, I was so stupid when I was young. I can't believe some of the things. And, we kind of laughed about it because it wasn't anything terrible. But they're young men.
Yeah.
Okay? They feel what they're doing is legal. And it is legal what he's doing. What he may have done may have crossed the line. Okay? But just having a masseuse come to him, I think that's law. You could hire someone.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about anything beyond that. Just getting a basic massage. And did he carry things too far? Was he a young man who just wanted to ask someone out on a date because he was interested in the girl? Did he, did he go a little, if he went too far against someone's wishes and he was told that and then he still attempted to, then that's where problems exist. But
I agree. I was just wondering, because a lot of the popular players try to do things privately, and now that may not even be a good idea. So anyway, so let's push on from that, because like I said, I really don't like talking about it, but we do have
Mac, we kept on this topic. This is what I say. Let's wait until something substantial one way or the other happens in the Watson case where the NFL acts.
Yeah.
Police act. I say take a bow. Let's not revisit this unless something goes down. I don't want to hear about the attorney for the women. I don't want to hear about Watson's attorney. I want something concrete to happen. Okay?
Right.
Or the Texan organization acts up, some type of something concrete before we revisit it. I don't want to hear the sides going back and forth.
I agree with that. How's that? We'll make that vow.
We make that vow.
Yes. So we also touched this week, Jack, on the big free agency swarm. I mean, it was crazy, right? And some teams went all in, and a couple of local teams went all in. The Patriots and the Giants, who built their teams for almost instant impact, Jack. I mean, for this year, two different reasons. The Patriots want to return to the playoffs to where they're at, and the Giants trying to make the playoffs for the first time in quite a few years. Looking at it, Jack, it's got to change what you draft, right? If you're going to fill these needs with free agency, if I'm picking up an all-pro wide receiver and all-pro tight end, well, I sure don't need a receiver or a tight end. So this has got to change what they're looking at coming up in the draft. So when they go here, are they going to go after the best athlete available, which a lot of scouting departments do anyway?
It depends whether something
or are they going to draft per position when they already filled positions?
It depends what could fall into your lap. Sometimes you don't intend to draft by a position. You're all set in the position, and a player that's so good falls into your lap. I remember years ago, the Jets had 4 number 1 draft picks, and when they got to number 18, Vinny Testaverde was already their quarterback. The Jets were very happy with Testaverde at their quarterback, but Chad Pennington from Marshall was there at number 18, and they looked at themselves. They said, what the heck is he still doing here at 18? He should have gone in the top 10. They felt they had no choice but to draft Chad Pennington because he was there.
Right.
And that's something that might happen. What happens with the Giants when they go number 11? They don't need a tight end. What happens if the best player available is a tight end? I mean, they have Rudolph and Ingram.
Right.
I mean, that's the way they might go. I mean, you can never tell. It's a philosophy thing, Mac. I'm the big believer you take the best player available. Yeah, drafting by position, the only time you avoid drafting by position is if the guy in that position is an all-star type player. He's under contract. He's going to be there for a while. He's an impact player. Then you kind of work around that. Look at the Eagles last year. They claimed they drafted Jalen Hurts in the 2nd round because they couldn't believe he was still there for them. So they felt they couldn't bypass on him, even though at that time Carson Wentz was their franchise quarterback. They draft Jalen Hurts, and who knows how that's going to turn out now. But it didn't work last year. There was a lot of dissension, controversy. But now that they're moving forward with Hurts in the second year, maybe that would have turned out to be a good move.
I got a theory with the Eagles. We were all surprised that they didn't go out and get a receiver or maybe a defensive guy. I think as we talked to one of our guests, Joe Sullivan-Quito, I hope I'm saying that right.
Liquido, yeah.
Liquido, this has been brewing for a while, Jack. I think that the Eagles knew what the outcome was going to be. They said the GM liked him and the coach did this and that. I believe that the Eagles were looking forward into the future and saying, within the next couple of years, Wentz ain't going to be here. And I think they did that on purpose, Jack. I don't think that fell to him. I think they were looking for him to be there, and they got him because they thought that this was going to happen with Wentz. At least there was an inkling that this was going to happen with Wentz. And that's why I think they did that, Jack. Because a lot of people say, well, why didn't they get a receiver? Well, I think they knew that the unrest in that locker room with Wentz and the players and the front office and all, I think they really knew that at least not exactly knew, but had an inkling that this was going to happen. And that's why they went after Hurts.
Yeah, and another thing too with the Eagles, Mac, that's a good point. But another thing, they lost that last regular season game to the Giants, in which the players didn't tank the game, but the coaching staff kind of tanked the game. It didn't look like Doug Peterson was doing everything he could to win the game with the Eagles. At the time, we didn't know that Doug Peterson wasn't going to be back. Now, what was at stake for the Eagles losing the game as opposed to winning it? Had they won that game, they would have gone 9th overall in the draft. By losing, they dropped down 3 slots to number 6. Now, at the time, I said that's not that significant a thing. But considering the deal the Eagles just made with the 6th pick in the draft, as opposed to had they had the number 9 pick, they might not have been able to make the recent deal that they just made with the Miami Dolphins, where they could pick up an extra number 1 pick for next year.
Right.
So that's kind of interesting. So I'm going to have to say I was wrong, and I learned a little bit going forward, even though it could only be a few slots in the draft from number 9 to number 6 is significant as far as a trade chip goes.
Value, Jack. Value. It's all about the
you get a lot more value, Mac. It's like holding one bill, Mac. It's like a $1 bill, a $2 bill. You'll say, what could you get for $2? But you can pick something up.
Yeah, I mean that's true. They're looking at, of course, they're looking at more things than we are. We're looking at the direct picture, and they're looking at maybe the future or whatever.
Well, Mac, I don't know you're going to bring up that 3-way deal, basically.
Yeah, we'll bring it up. We'll bring it up with Anthony. We'll bring it up with Anthony when he comes on, and I mean he's all over the drafts and stuff like that. So
Anthony knows all this. He's going to cover it thoroughly, so I won't have my say.
Oh, you'll have your say.
Everything I was going to say.
You always get your say one way or the other.
No, I mean I'll have. Okay, Anthony will cover it thoroughly, and
you'll be ready with a bunch of questions for him. I'm sure about that. So that was pretty immense. All the free agency that happened. I've never seen that much free agency. I know it had a lot to do with the cap and getting rid of some good players and restructuring others, and that was like a flurry. The standings is at the end of the week, Jack, in our sports that are really going full-fledged right now, the NBA and NHL. Some interesting things. I mean, we have the 76ers still in first with the Nets in second. The Bucks are in third. The most interesting thing to me is the Knicks move up the tie for fourth, Jack. I mean, they're 2 games above 500. They beat the Bucks. I'll do it that, both teams were kind of beat up, but they still won. Again, it makes me wonder why the Knicks didn't make a move, a big move at the trade deadline, Jack. I mean, why aren't you doing something and offering something to somebody when you're this close And I know we want to be patient, but damn, we've been patient with these guys since the 90s. I mean, here we have a chance, or 80s, I should say, a chance to really go do something, and we're not.
Mark, the Knicks are not winning the NBA championship no matter what move they would have made. There was nothing they could have done. Let them just play out the year. It's been a very successful year. Coach Thibodeau has done an outstanding job. They can make the playoffs, like I've said before, and get swept in the first round, and it's still been a good year. The Nets are another matter. How do you like the Nets getting LaMarcus Aldridge, a 7-time All-Star from San Antonio? They're adding all these powerful pieces. And imagine they have Durant, Irving, Harden, Aldridge, Joe Harris on the floor at the same time. Plus, they have a strong bench. I mean, DeAndre Jordan, he's kind of reborn this year. To me, the Nets are the story here, the way they keep adding these pieces. I mean, Blake Griffin is a complimentary player there. And if he could just get back some of what he was, and the rest of the guys they have on the bench, Claxton, and on and on and on. And they're the real story. Leave the Knicks alone, Mac. Leave them alone. They're having a wonderful year. Let them finish at 500, get in the playoffs, get bumped in the first round, and they would have exceeded expectations this year. Yeah. And they've been entertaining to watch. RJ Barrett is developing into a good player. Better than some of us thought based on his rookie year. Julius Randle, a valid all-star, better than what I thought he was going to be. And let's see how the other young players develop, like Quickly and hopefully Toppin, who's been a bit disappointing to me, could play a little more, develop a little more. Let's just see. The Knicks are going to do something in the offseason. That's the time for them to really do something.
The Celtics did move back to 500, Jack. I mean, I know they lost one of their big key players. He left, but I think that they've maybe underachieved this year. I think they still have, a team that could be very formidable. They're not going to championship, but at least in the East, they could be very formidable, I think.
Nah, you would have thought that in the beginning of the year, but let's be honest about it. The Brooklyn Nets are awesome with all their pickups. I mean, they're going to be hard to beat. Then they're the Sixers. They're clearly ahead of the Celtics, those two teams. The Bucks, they're ahead of the Celtics when they're healthy. They got PJ Tucker from Houston, a nice chip to add on. And they have obviously a superstar in Giannis. It's just not there for the Celtics, unfortunately. They've got the talent to compete, though. But you hear these little rumors about Indiana University interested in Brad Stevens. Brad Stevens denies wanting to go there. He had his most success, obviously, as a college coach at Butler. So when you start hearing this talk, it's not a good thing, but the Celtics, Tatum, Brown, Walker, they're a good team. I mean, they are a very good team, at least on paper. And if they put it all together, they can be pesky. And then there's Miami, too. Oladipo went there. Miami hasn't taken off. They've been a bit disappointing. But what happens if they start taking off, the last 2-3 weeks of the season? The Celtics have too many hurdles to overcome.
Yeah, I really believe, Jack. I don't know. The Nets are very intriguing because of all the stars, but you still got to be able to play together, Jack. We'll see. I'm going to say we'll see. I like the 76ers chemistry right now. I still think they're the favorites.
Well, how's LaMarcus Aldridge going to fit in? Because the Net team's playing well, and you kind of wonder Kevin Durant. I'll tell you, Kevin Durant's a very sensitive individual. It bothers him that people don't acknowledge how great a player he is. He brings it onto himself to a degree. He goes to a situation in the Nets, rather than him being the focal point, the main guy, he's just blending in. You want to know something, Kevin Durant? I got news for you, Kevin. You're third wheel on the Nets. It's Kyrie and Harden going neck and neck. and you're a couple of steps behind. And you're too great a player for that. You're an all-time great player who's third fiddle. Can you imagine Kobe Bryant going to, let's say, the Chicago Bulls and saying, okay, I'm third fiddle to Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen. That's my place in the pecking order. It's not the best situation for Kevin Durant.
I don't know why he hasn't been played. I know he's injured, Jack, but I mean, it's kind of weird. Is it the injury a lot more serious than what we think? Do they think they're going to playoffs with or without Kevin Durant? They probably are. Maybe that's the reason.
Oh, obviously a lot for the playoffs.
Right. He's got to get in there and play again. I mean, he can't just wait all year to the playoffs. I mean, that may be the.
That's what they might do. They might hold him out. Want to be sure he's 100% ready to go for the playoffs. And that would be the smart thing in doing, Mac. I mean, they have the pieces. They're fine without him going forward in the regular season. But for the playoffs, if you're getting Kevin Durant at the top of his game, I mean, who's going to beat the Nets? Harden, Kyrie, KD at the top of their game. LaMarcus Aldridge coming in there, as a major reinforcement. DeAndre Jordan has been, outstanding during this time. That kind of had a resurgence.
We'll definitely.
Harris, his long range shooting, like I said, and the guys on the bench. No one is beating that team if all cylinders are running, but we don't know whether the machine's going to be running full force.
Jack, I've seen a lot of talented teams go to the playoffs and get beat. I mean, I've seen it. I've seen the Bulls get beat by the Pistons, and Bulls had more talent than the Pistons. I mean, talent-wise, but I mean,
the Bulls won their way. They weren't quite where they were going to get.
And I seen the Pistons
won a championship. Yeah,
I seen the Pistons just with a defense and not no names, but good players win a championship too. So, we'll see what happens. I mean, I tell you right now, if nothing else, this is a very interesting season over in the East for a champion.
It is.
Yes.
It is.
So
and the West is a lot of fun. The two LA teams, the Clippers, the Lakers, the Utah Jazz, the Denver Nuggets have improved. The Phoenix Suns have a really good team. It's a lot of fun at the West. So the NBA, listen, it's great. The playoffs are going to be great in the NBA. I wonder when the regular season ends, what some of the matchups are going to be. Especially in the NBA West. Let's say the number 1 seed has to play the number 8 seed, and the number 8 seed is Dallas. You don't want that type of matchup because even if you win that series, you get beat up. And even in the East, the NBA East, some of the weakest seeds in the East are going to be very tough, like the Atlanta Hawks. They're not an automatic walkover.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm just happy that the East is part of the conversation this year instead of just the West, which, and it's because, of course, you're from here. So let's jump into the NHL and talk about what happened this week with them. The Islanders were on fire, Jack. The Capitals are tied for first right now. The Bruins sitting in fourth. The Flyers finally won a game, and they're in fifth. And the Rangers are in sixth ahead of the Devils and the Sabres. I don't know if the biggest story is the Sabres losing 17 in a row or that the Flyers are not in the top 4 right now, Jack.
Flyers had a gutty win yesterday, okay? A gutty win. The goalie, Elliott just played superbly. And the Flyers are hanging around. They're only a few points out of a playoff position. And the biggest story, the Sabres losing. The Sabres and the Houston Rockets, which losing streak is the big story this year. I know I'm comparing hockey to basketball. We've talked about the Sabres before. And talk about a team that hasn't made the playoffs in a decade. They rebuilt. And finally, they're there. They're on the brink of finally making a playoff push after so many years. And they fall backwards. It's as if the last 10 years haven't counted for anything. It's like when you were a kid, Mac, you ever play with blocks, you're building something up and up, and you can only build it so much, and then it collapses on you, and then you want to start building it over. It's an ugly thing there in Buffalo. They changed head coaches. That didn't work. And It's a Jack Eichel watch. That's their star player. They can get a lot in return for him. Okay, are they going to wait for the off season? When's the best time to deal him? They can keep him. They don't have to trade him, and he hasn't demanded a trade. But if they don't trade him, are they going to try to build around him? And it's an ugly situation in Buffalo. Listen, at least they got the Buffalo Bills, who are going to make a run at the Super Bowl next year.
Right. The biggest thing that I think, that surprised me is, the Flyers goaltender Hart. I mean, we all thought he was going to be the next, coming of a Hall of Fame goalie, but man, he's had problems this year, Jack.
And why is everyone making excuses saying, well, he must be hurt? If he's hurt, he shouldn't be playing as much as he is, okay? They got the other goaltender, Elliott's a decent goaltender. And that's what gets me. And if he's hurt in any way, shape, or form, he's probably aggravating it by not, rehabbing and playing while he's hurt. So people tend to make excuses. I don't know. Maybe he's not as good as people thought he is. Maybe he's just fell backwards from the early promise he showed. Maybe it's some technical stuff he has to improve on, his form. I don't know what it is, but he was supposed to take that step forward and be one of the elite goaltenders in the NHL. It hasn't happened, and I've noticed him out of position on a number of shots. And if he is injured and he's favoring something, he shouldn't be out there. He really shouldn't be out there. He's too young of a talent, and they've had too much invested in him to play him while he's hurt. And this season can't be doing his confidence that much good.
But is that totally his fault, Jack, or is it the defensemen in front of him that are not doing their jobs? I mean, the goalie, you can't expect a goalie just to field all those shots. Is it defense? That's got to be part of the problem, too, Jack.
Goalies have to bail their defensemen out sometimes. They just have to do it. I mean, and listen, hockey's unforgiving. You make a couple of mistakes. That's a couple of goals. And that's right. Devastating. That could be devastating as far as the outcome comes. I mean, just watching Carter Hart this year, it just seems like he's been out of position a number of times. Yeah, I mean, I'm not an expert on goalkeeping, but, he's not getting down low quick enough. He's not getting down high. He's not moving to his left or right quite quick enough. And I don't know, is he doubting himself? Is it a confidence thing? Sometimes I like when a goalie's aggressive. He comes out and cuts off the angle. I haven't seen Carter Hart, the games I've seen play, him really being aggressive. Because a great goalkeeper, he kind of challenges the shooters, especially they're driving in on him. He lets you know that goal area, that's his turf over there. And he's up to the challenge. It seems Carter Hart is a little defensive, a little timid this year, but he's young yet, and we'll see. I mean, he could bounce back, but this year's really been a nightmare year for him and the Flyers. But listen, the Flyers still could make the playoffs. They still could rebound. More games like yesterday. This could wind up being, the Flyers could still have a happy ending, a productive season, but, no one could really see them winning the Cup.
I definitely agree with that. And thanks to Carlos for chiming in again today. We love having him coming in. And folks out there, the Mac and Jack Sports Show, we're your sports show. We're a private sports show. We're not one of those big networks where we don't listen to you and just do what the NFL or NBA or MLB say. So anytime
I don't know what Carlos saying we need younger coaching necessarily. There's nothing wrong with Barry Trotz, for example.
That's true.
Coach. Do you really want to replace him with a younger coach?
Well, I think he's talking maybe about the unsuccessful older coaches, Jack. That's all. So
let me tell you anything just very quickly, Mac, about any sports league, not just at the NHL. Only so many teams could win. It doesn't mean the teams that don't make the playoffs for a year or two that the coaches aren't really good coaches.
Valid
Okay,
point.
when a coach has been in a position 5, 6 years and they haven't made progress, you could come to the conclusion he's not as good a coach as you think. Look, the great Bill Belichick, he made with the Cleveland Browns before he went to New England. He made the playoffs 1 year out of 5. He had a 36-44 record. It doesn't mean he turned out to be a great coach. Bill Parcells in his first year, Mac, they were what, 3-12-1.
Yeah,
Imagine
3 and
they
13.
fired Parcells.
Nah.
Okay, you got to sometimes give a guy a little time. You got to look at his personnel, his talent, before you come to conclusions.
I agree with Jack. It's very, very judgmental, very fast today, and it's part of the way we are today. The Patriots offensive lineman Heron saves a 71-year-old retired teacher from being sexually assaulted in a public park. We talked about that. People are calling him a hero, and he is. And there are a lot of stories that, unlike the Deshaun Watson and the bad stories out there in the media, where all these players are doing really good things, Jack. I mean, they're helping charities, they're supporting catastrophes, they're doing all kinds of things in the community. And these are very highly underreported, Jack.
Let me tell you something. One of the biggest heroes in NFL history, if not the biggest, okay? He died a few decades ago. A player, Kansas City Chief running back Joe Delaney. He jumped into the deep water to save some people. He couldn't swim himself. He wound up drowning. I mean, it's heartbreaking to think of that, but somehow, you wish they would name a stadium after him or something. I don't know, does anyone have an award after him, the Delaney Courage Award, and but you do have players in general who do a lot for the community. You really do, and that's an extra nice thing, because when you consider all the money that they're making, they really don't have to do anything. Yet they want to step forward, they want to do good, and kudos to them.
Yeah, I think, for instance, we have a guest that comes on every week, Byron Williams, former NFL wide receiver, and he runs the Best Wishes Foundation, and of course they help the kids that don't have fathers, that are in certain families. I mean, they bring them shoes, they mentor them, they try to make them good citizens before they end up in the streets doing something wrong. I remember Drew Brees after the hurricane. I mean, that man gave his money and his time to help out New Orleans, and and as you brought up, and he said one thing that was kind of maybe not correct.
It's sickening, Mac. It's sickening. A guy can spend decades, okay, doing the most charitable things for all people. And he could say one thing kind of taken out of context, not meaning the words to come out the way they did, not really meaning it. And there's such a firestorm. There's nothing he can say that could make it right. He could say, guys, I spoke too quick. I spoke before I really was thinking clearly. Please forgive me. Please judge my body of work. Judge me as a human being, what I've done for years and years. And the answer will be no. The answer will be flat out no. It's just the the way society could sometimes be unforgiving. But sometimes you do get athletes, who say things and they really out of line, and they should be taken to task as well.
To me, Jack, and 2 points on that. My father always told me there's about 3 things to say one thing, and there's 100 different ways to take it, right? It depends on how you hear it, what you hear, what your feelings are about what you hear. And another thing, I mean, listen, I'm not going to praise anybody I think it should be brought up to the attention. People should see the other side of the coin. But I'm not of the mind to put them on a higher level than anybody else that's doing work, right? I'm not saying, they don't have to. Well, nobody has to help, Jack. Everybody can just stay inside and take care of their business. So I don't want to put them on a higher level. Now they'll raise more money, maybe. that putting their name to that might bring this foundation more media coverage. But anybody that gives up their time and some funds or whatever they got to do, because the time is money. Man, I credit them all, Jack. I mean, I really respect people that go the extra mile to help out somebody else when they really need help, not just because they say they need help.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So anyway, folks, we'll be getting coming up next around 9:00. We have Robert Butler, the very popular host of Sports Scope, with some of topics we cover with him. He's very insightful. He uses a lot of analogies, sometimes can be controversial. That's why we like having him on. At 9:30, we'll have on Anthony Servino from Fantasy Football Face Off. He's an expert in fantasy, and he also covers the NFL unbelievably. I mean, he's all over stats, drafts, free agency, got a lot of opinions on it. So right after this quick timeout, we'll have our friend and guest Robert Butler coming on with us. So folks, stay tuned. We got a lot more sports coming at you. And we'll go ahead and we'll take our first break, Jack, and we'll be right back, folks. So stick with us, please.
If you served honorably in our nation's armed forces and you're looking for a way to continue serving your fellow veterans in your community, then join AMVETS. Each year, AMVETS members volunteer millions of hours at VA healthcare facilities from coast to coast, helping to improve the lives of their fellow veterans through the VA Voluntary Services Program. AMVETS posts and departments also participate in a wide variety of community service projects, ranging from Americanism in our schools to supporting the Special Olympics and Boy Scouts of America. If you no longer wear the uniform today, you can still serve through the AMVETS by joining today at amvets.org.
Hi, Grandma. What's for dinner?
Hey, honey, I'm making stew tonight.
Ooh, can Nina come over?
I'm not sure about our new friend. I wonder if there's been any drinking going on. Alcohol at her age can lead to so many bad things. I've been meaning to ask you, what would happen if someone offered you a drink?
Grandma?
This is hard. She's so young, but I know I need to talk to her about it now before someone tries to give her alcohol. If anyone ever does offer you a drink, I want you to say no. I have too much respect for my family, and I don't want to get in trouble.
Okay.
Really?
I promise, Grandma. I love you too.
Okay, how about tasting this stew and telling me what you think?
Some children may try alcohol as young as 9 years old. It's not too early to talk about drinking. For tips on how to begin the conversation, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. That's underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. This message brought to you by SAMHSA and this station.
When you hear the word asthma, you probably think of shortness of breath, coughing, or inhalers. Lots of things can trigger asthma, but the fact is that asthma doesn't just attack, it can kill. But with proper medical management, asthma is controllable. If you experience shortness of breath, wheezing, tightness in your chest, or persistent nighttime coughing, you may have asthma. See your doctor and get the facts. You'll breathe easier. For more information, call 211 Infoline. A message from the Connecticut Department of Public Health, keeping Connecticut healthy.
If you talk and they will hear you every single time.
Oh, we're getting killed.
Yeah, well, Kyle's not here.
How come?
Kicked off the team. Didn't Tim tell you? Kyle and some other kids got caught drinking beer in the park a couple of nights ago.
Really?
Yeah. Zero tolerance. He's out for the season.
Come on, it's the first offense, right?
That we know of. But why should that matter? He knew not to drink. I made it clear to Matt that's what we expect from him. What have you said to Tim?
Nothing really. You know, a lot of kids try it at this age, so.
Yeah, well, a lot of kids don't try it too. I'm not saying that Matt's going to be this perfect kid, but if I don't tell him what we expect and why he shouldn't drink, how's he going to know?
You think kids that age really listen?
They never admit it, Bill, but they hear more than you think.
Talk. They hear you. For more information about talking with kids about underage drinking, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
Try.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the Mac and Jack Sports Show. We're on live Wednesday through Sunday, 8 to 10 a.m. I'm your host, Mac, with your co-host, the legendary boxing writer, Jack Hirsch, and soon to be inducted into one of the boxing's Hall of Fames, which is going to be a big day. I can't wait. I'm thinking about going live with him. I'll see if he can bring his little phone with him, and maybe we can get a look at it. I mean, it'd be great, Jack. I don't know if we can do that or not, but it would be great to see you getting an award you deserve very much, I think.
Well, New York State Boxing Hall of Fame, I think that's going to be about as high as I'll go. I don't see myself getting into the International Boxing Hall of Fame unless I make it to age 97. This guy has been
I don't believe
long time,
I do not believe that.
Yeah.
I do not believe that for a minute, Jack. I know that you will be in the International Boxing Hall of Fame, and I know the guy that runs it. So I already put something in his ear, and he kind of nodded his head yes. So I have no doubt, Jack, that one day soon you will definitely be in the International Boxing Hall of Fame. There's no doubt in my mind. So
well,
you can
I'm
say,
involved. I vote. I vote. Maybe I'll get.
I know you do, Jack. And so I mean,
No way.
at least you got one vote, Jack. Right? I mean,
Yeah.
there you go. Folks, we're going to bring up Robert Butler, the host of Sports Scope, very popular, one of the shows on Northeast Streaming Sports. He has a great site, so go on over there and check it. Let's bring Robert up. How you doing today, Robert?
Hey, good. Yeah, we need to have a debate show whether is Jack a Hall of Fame boxing writer or not.
I don't think so, honestly.
Like a football show, right?
I would vote for myself. It would be more controversy than when Harold Baines got in me getting it. They'd probably see that Jack gave a heck of a donation. You know what I mean?
There's no doubt, Robert. He's going to be.
No, I know. I'm just kidding.
He's been doing this for decades, and he's on probably the most influential site as far as boxing news goes.
But the Mac and Jack show takes off into the big time. That would certainly help my case.
Yes, it would. Yes, it would. We'll see what happens with that too. Robert, we love having you on every week, covering a bunch of topics in sports. I mean, you got knowledge in a bunch of areas. NFL, NBA, NCAA. I know you dabble in a lot of different sports. So let's start it off. And I have a question that I posed to a few people. And I know LeBron James put the Cleveland Cavaliers on his back a couple times when he was young.
Yeah.
A lot older now. He's just a lot of miles on those sneakers. The Lakers have him and basically Anthony Davis. I know they picked up, what is it, Rondo they picked up, Jack?
No, Rondo went to the Clippers.
Sorry, there you go.
Drummond may go there. It's not for certain yet. He's favored to go there, Andre Drummond, in the buyout.
Right. So if it's just really him and Anthony Davis there, do you think they're deep enough this year to win another championship?
No, I think they're going to fall too far back. I talked about this on my show the other day. The only team past a 4 seed that has ever won was the 1994 Houston Rockets with Akeem Olajuwon. That was the year that Jordan played baseball, the O.J. Chase year. So I do not think – I think they're going to fall below either 4 or below. You look how deep the West is with Utah. Denver's getting better. They've got Aaron Gordon. Look at the East now. They've got LaMarcus Aldridge with the Nets. We got Blake Griffin. I just don't think they're going to be able to get out of all that. Both conferences are – the parity's as best it's been in 25 years, if you ask me.
It really has. I kind of wonder. We look at the 2 LA teams, the Lakers, the Clippers, and the Utah Jazz, and we think one of those 3 are going to make it to the finals. Could possibly the Denver Nuggets or the Phoenix Suns or even the Dallas Mavericks, if they put it all together, conceivably could one of those teams emerge and shock everyone and go to the finals?
I would think so. The Clippers made a big move there, getting Rondo like that. They're 18th in assists.
No, we know the 2 LA teams in Utah out of those three teams, one of them is probably gone to the finals. I mean, the other three I mentioned, Denver, Phoenix, and Dallas, could they possibly go one of those three?
I think Denver could. I really do. Look how far Denver's went multiple times where they've won rounds and exceeded. So it's not like they're this young, hot, regular season team. They've got some seasoning. They've got the right amount of veterans, Paul Millsap, and young superstars. The Joker, the depth, the experience, the coaching. Going on the road now, this is not going to be in the bubble format where you get 4 months off and there's no travel. I just don't see the Lakers making it. And I see a young team like Denver going pretty far. Remember, they almost got to the finals a few years ago, the Western Conference Finals. Oh, you went mute. I can't hear you guys.
Okay.
You can hear me? I'm
There,
good.
I hear you now.
I
Yeah.
was going to
All
take
right.
over
That
the
was my
questioning,
fault.
man.
That's my fault.
I
The
thought you were saying some profanities. I know you're that much of a Laker fan.
Mac was complaining before about the Knicks not making a major move, and I told him no need to. The Knicks weren't going to win the NBA championship no matter what they were going to do, any move. So they were smart not to make a move. I was telling Mac.
Oh yeah. Well, they're above 500.
Yeah.
Such a
Listen,
young team.
Listen, we've been waiting for since the 80s or the early 90s for the Knicks to do something. I'm tired of waiting.
It's 92, yeah.
What's exciting to me, Robert, is that we really have a buzz in the East this year with something we haven't had in years, right? The West, we knew was going to win the championship. I don't care who came out. But this year with the 76ers, the Nets, of course, maybe the Bucks, depending if they get their stuff together there or not. We have a legitimate shot at winning the championship this year.
Oh yeah, man. I mean, it's this net team, especially if they can bring back Durant. But I'm starting to wonder about that. I mean, he's just been out for a while now. That's a head scratch. I think Embiid will be okay.
Listen, guys, LaMarcus Aldridge, he's supposed to be going to the Nets. Even without Durant, you think of Harden, Irving, Aldridge, and the bench being as good as it is? I mean, they can win even without Durant. If Durant's there in top form, and all of them in top form, I think the Nets are unstoppable at this point.
I think so. Remember the Celtics, when they put their big three together, the first year they won it. LeBron, when he goes to his team and did his super team, it always took 2 years. But that Celtic team, which was just a year older than this net team on the average, they won it the very first year. So I could see them winning, though. I think one odds market's got them winning, got them favored now. Over the Lakers have been favored. I don't know why the Lakers are still as favored as high as they are. I think they're in trouble.
I agree with that, Robert. I agree. I don't think the Lakers are deep enough. If one of those guys go down, if both of them go down, forget it. But one of those guys go down, they're in a lot of trouble. Can you see this year upcoming? I mean, I'm looking at the teams this year. Last year, we looked at the Jets and the Jaguars as the two worst teams maybe in the NFL. Of course, they got that 1 and 2 picks, so that makes sense. But the Eagles, I mean, what the hell are they doing over there? I mean, I know they're strapped because of Wentz and his salary. But a lot of teams are restructuring contracts, are still making room on the cap in some way or another, whether they're offering guaranteed money so it's carried out over the years instead of off that first year. They do make a trade with picks, but still, I mean, what are the Eagles? Are the Eagles just settling on being at the bottom of the East and maybe being the worst team in football next year?
They may be doing that. They've got a lot of holes. Lane Johnson, Jason Peters, 2 offensive line. These guys are long in the tooth. They got to rebuild. They got multiple needs. Probably a good move for them to trade down like that. But I'm not sold on Jalen Hurts. I saw your question. That they very well could be the worst team in the league. Now, if something happens with Deshaun Watson and he's on that commissioner's exempt list, Houston, with all their holes, they could be in that top 5 as well. One of these guys could be going after, what's his name? Shane Rattler from Oklahoma. He's picked to be the number 1 quarterback next year. And now, I mean, I'm looking ahead, but a lot of people talking about these quarterbacks. So maybe that's what they're trying to do. But they got some holes there. They're practically their whole offensive line was out last year. That's another reason I gave Carson Wentz a little bit of leeway there, and probably a big reason why they brought in a more athletic Jalen Hurts, if you ask me. So yeah, they could be a top 5, and that very well may be the right thing to do right now. It's just get higher in the draft and hit the re-switch button and start over, particularly on the offensive line.
Well, me and Jack talked about this a little bit earlier. They got Hurts. They went high and picked up Hurts. And we've had one of the reporters from Philly Voice, Joe Santaloquito, on. And, there was a problem over there in the locker room 2 years ago. I mean, he had sources right from the locker room that he quoted in his article. And it went national. I mean, it was a huge article about Wentz. And I was thinking maybe the front office knew there was going to be, or at least had an inkling that there was going to be a problem with Wentz going forward, and that's why they drafted Hurts. Everybody says, well, why don't they get him weapons? Wentz weapons. Well, maybe the organization knew that, or had some kind of idea that this might happen this year with Wentz, Robert.
Yeah. Well, at this point, I think, they just got to roll with Hurts and see what happens. I'm not too high on this Howie Roseman. I got a feeling they may move off this general manager after this year. He seems like he's got a bit of a ego issue going right now.
I don't know. Do I agree with that, Rob? And I'm going to tell you why. I think he's just carrying out what the owner, Jeffrey Lurie, wants him to do. So as long as he's doing that, the owner's going to be happy with his GM because his GM is listening to him. And Howie Roseman isn't going to go public and say, well, I'm just doing what our owner wants us to do. He's willing to take the hit publicity-wise, to do what his owner wants. So he'll be secure in his job as the GM. It was kind of intriguing. I don't know what point, Mac, you want to talk about that deal they made with the Eagles. But the Eagles, just turned around in that 3-way deal. And they made a deal with the Dolphins where they switch from 6 to number 12 so they could get a first-round pick next year. I mean, at number 6, they were going to get an elite player. At number 12, they might get an elite player. That's the difference involved. But to get a number 1 pick next year, but let's look at that number 1 pick next year. If the Dolphins are going to be as good as we think they're going to be, at least as good as I think they're going to be, that pick's going to be somewhere maybe about number 25 in the draft. So that's not going to be a top 10 pick. But still, I think it's a good deal for the Eagles, going forward, to build their team for the future.
Right. I guess that'd lead you to your next question, huh, Mac?
I have to do it. I mentioned it before. I don't know.
But believe it or not, Robert, we don't even discuss anything on the show. I go because I just want Jack Raw just giving his opinions and not formulating them. The only time we do that is on our debate show on Saturday. But so I don't beat Jack too bad in the debate show. Robert, Fitzpatrick, the Miami Dolphins let go of a quarterback that came in and bailed out Tua a couple times and led him to wins. He's not the ultra most consistent quarterback as far as he can throw for 400 yards and 5 touchdowns or throw for 5 interceptions. But Tua doesn't have that backup anymore like that. I guess Miami's all in on him. I don't see why yet because they get all these draft picks coming. Big mistake or what the hell? I don't know.
It's one of those situations where there were some leaks out of the Miami locker room that the players, of course, they go unidentified, that they like Fitzpatrick better than Tua. And Fitzpatrick is showing to be, a better player, a little bit of an underrated. He's an on and off streaky guy, Carlos. I see you coming up on there. He's played for every team in the league. He's the ultimate journeyman quarterback. Now, going back to Tua, so I guess they just decided, well, we'll just move off Fitzpatrick. We're bringing a really good backup like a Jacoby Brissett. athletic guy can make a few throws. He can make a few throws. He's close. He's a younger Fitzpatrick, perhaps. So it's not a big fall off from Fitzpatrick to a Jacoby Brissett. That being said, I mean, I feel like that Greer, the general manager in Flores, they're mortgaging their future with Tua. Now and like I said, and I put on that post on my page, he has no excuse for failing. They have a great draft capital coming up. They have a lot of players coming in. Now they're at 6. They may get Cal Pitts. They may get Sewell, the left tackle everybody's talking about out of Oregon, to give him max protection. So he's either probably going to get that tight end, a left tackle, or elite wide receiver to go along with the players. Will Fuller, Devontae Parker. They've got a decent Gaskin at running back there. So we already know they got a defense. So it's coming up on Tua to make the plays. We'll see. I don't know if I would have done it. I would have maybe drafted another quarterback to be on the safe side. But maybe they see something in practice we don't.
I think they're going about it the right way, the Dolphins, absolutely. And now still drafting at number 6. They moved down from number 3, and they maneuvered things. And the guy they're going to get at number 6 is probably going to get the same guy they would have gotten at number 3, because they weren't going to draft the quarterback at number 3. Whoever they have in mind, they probably have in mind more than one guy, 2 or 3 guys who are on their depth chart they would have felt pretty much the same about, and any of those 3 guys will be fine, and they'll be there at them at number 6. Plus, they got an additional number 1 draft pick for next year out of the deal. So I think the Dolphins were brilliant going about it. And Mac and myself have had a slight difference of opinion on Tua. Mac's not sure. To Mac, the jury's still out on Tua. He wants to wait and see. I think Tua's the real thing. He's going to be fine, and he's going to take a big step forward next year.
Well, he'll have a full regular offseason this year compared to last year's. The COVID restrictions are going to be pretty much a non-factor in July, I would think. You know, he'll be able to go through preseason games and all that stuff. And usually quarterbacks and players in general make that big jump from year 1 to year 2. So this is a big question mark for Tua. If he looks the same as he did at the end of last year, this year, they'll know they made a mistake.
But I'm going to tell you, Devonta Smith, guys, at number 6, I think is going to be there. His wide receiver at Alabama, and you connect him with a guy who he's used to playing with. That's going to mean a lot.
The only thing that bothers me about Tua, and is, I mean, I listen, to make it to the NFL, you're a great quarterback. That's bottom line. Can you play at that level with the rest of the great players is always the question. The thing that bothers me about Tua, of course, he had that injury, and the Dolphins took him anyway, saying, well, you know, he looks to be good medically in that. And when I watched him at Oklahoma, and granted it's college, he seemed a lot more mobile. He's still accurate, but when you look at Burrows and you look at what, you know, the San Diego quarterback did.
Herbert.
What he did get thrown in without any prep. In fact, he wasn't supposed to be the starting quarterback at all, and he gets thrown in, and on a probably less talented team, the Chargers. These guys look for real. These two, before the hurt, even though Burrows is playing on a bad team, he looked good. And so did Herbert. So Tua really didn't look good. He looked average at best, sometimes not even average. So what's bothering me about the Tua thing here is not just that, you know, it's his first year. It's that he had that security blanket there. He didn't seem to have his back, as you stated, and that's part of being a leader. So that's the questions I have for Tua right now. Right now, can he be as mobile as he was in college? It doesn't look like it. It doesn't look like he had the team when he went in. It looks like that was Fitzpatrick's team, and that's why they got rid of him. So that's why, to me, Robert, the jury is still out, and it doesn't look that good to me.
Yeah, he don't have the height of Burrow and Herbert, and he don't have the elusiveness of a Kyler Murray. Well, you got to have one or the other if you're his height and frame in the NFL. And he doesn't seem to have neither. So others have brought up that question. Yeah, that's why I'm not sure if I agree with Chris Greer, the general manager at Miami, and Brian Flores for making the moves that they made. I would have probably got some insurance. Arizona did it. They got Kyler Murray over Rosen. It's turned out to be okay.
Well, guys, we have, Jimmy Garoppolo's situation with the Niners is going to be interesting. He's going to be their quarterback next year. But let's be honest about it. For the 49ers to make that deal, to give up all they gave up to move down to the number 3 position, they're going to draft a quarterback. I'll be astounded if they don't draft a quarterback. It wouldn't make any sense at all. So they're going to draft a quarterback, and they're going to do the same thing that the Chiefs did with Patrick Mahomes. Sit him for 1 year, supposedly behind Jimmy Garoppolo, or he'll replace Garoppolo during the season, kind of the way the Giants did with Eli Manning and Kurt Warner. But what happens if Jimmy Garoppolo really has a great year? I mean, where do they go from there?
I don't know. They still may move on because they got this guy under a rookie contract, whether it be Justin Fields or Trey Lance. People have argued which one of those two quarterbacks. They'll have him under a rookie contract. Garoppolo's coming up. I think they got him for 2 more years. He'd be a good trade piece for somebody, maybe a Washington, maybe a New England. I'm still looking to see maybe New England picks up Garoppolo, perhaps. But remember, Garoppolo's been hurt 3 out of the last 4 years. And he's missed multiple games. Last year, they got all the way to the 12th pick. This team went to the Super Bowl year before that. They got all the way to the 12th pick. That's because he's getting hurt in September.
He was close to being a Super Bowl MVP, Garoppolo. Had they been able to close the game out, the Niners, when they were up 2010, good chance he's Super Bowl MVP, and we're having like a different discussion. And also, with what's left there, Justin Fields and Trey Lawrence, indications are they want Trey Lawrence. How good is he really? That's a question too.
He's only played 17 starts. My guess is they would go with Fields, but apparently he's got a really high football IQ. He knows how to make his adjust his offensive line with certain blocking schemes or whatever. It's what I hear. So I see what they're looking at, but Justin Fields has got 2.5 seasons of starting at the same height and speed. I would probably take Fields, but I don't know. Sometimes these guys that come from these small schools, when they come up on the national radar, they must be really special. Remember what Josh Allen came from Wyoming.
Very true. Very true. I don't know. I kind of feel not bad for Garoppolo, but man, he was in the Super Bowl 2 years ago, and they're ready to trade him already. That's kind of crazy to me. But I'm not the coach. Who do you got? We're getting to the Elite 8 coming up here soon, Robert. Who's your pick to win it all? Are you going to go with the easy pick and say Gonzaga, or you got a surprise for us?
I don't know. I may go with Baylor. That'd be the next one. 0 losses and 1 loss. Probably Gonzaga. That was an impressive run by Baylor yesterday. But I don't know, man. It's tough right now. It's watered down this year. It seems like all the blue bloods are completely out of it. I was looking at your question. You said the last time I've watched a full game. It goes all the way. I go all the way back to 2014 when Kentucky went undefeated during the regular season and lost in the Final Four to Wisconsin. That's the last regular season game I've watched from the start to the end in college basketball. Normally, it's just a few minutes here and there. You check the scoreboard on ESPN or something on your phone, and then you're watching some other TV show. That's me. But I'd say Gonzaga, I guess. Mark Few, I feel like it's their time.
Okay, getting into that. When's the last time you watched a full game? How about in any sport, Robert? When's the last time you sat down and watched a football game, the beginning to end? And any game. We used to, when I was growing up, of course, is back, when TV was black and white.
The leather helmet era.
Yeah. That's good. That's good. No, but we watched the game at halftime. We got our updates, and we watched the rest of the game. And then at the end of the game, they had their post-game show. I don't think people I might be wrong, but I don't think they do that anymore. I think they do highlights constantly now. You may watch part of your game, but as soon as it gets boring, you're moving on to something else. And that's I mean, to me, I don't know, if anybody actually watches a complete game anymore.
Well, if you're playing fantasy or gambling, you're going to watch that full game. I'll tell you.
Listen.
Not, yeah. Go ahead, Jack.
4 minutes into a Nick Detroit Piston game, I don't care that much about the first half. I'll watch it. I'll scan the channel. I'll go to another game. I do a lot of channel hopping, basically.
Surfing.
Which doesn't enable you to really focus on any one particular game. You want to catch little things going on back and forth. Usually there'll be about 5 games going on at once. And if it's towards the end of the game, I'll see a hockey game, 10 minutes left. I'm going to tune in the last 10 minutes. Basketball, 4th period. I'm going to focus in on that one particular game as the outcome is going to be in doubt.
Yeah, the last game I watched was the Super Bowl, and that was the only reason because I had a high-stakes fantasy game going. I was winning a lot of money this past year, and they ended up winning. I mean, like $2,500. So, but that being said, yeah, it's during the regular season. There's a channel called Red Zone, NFL Red Zone, and people that play fantasy and stuff, you're just going for when people's about to score, or when a game's towards the end, like Jack said.
So what leads me, before we let you go, to another question then. I mean, how can you call yourself an expert on your team or a loyal fan? In other words, when you watch a whole game, you watch the good things, the bad things, where you need to improve, where you don't need to improve. Why do they call that call? I mean, the highlights, you're controlled about what you see by the media. The media tells you this is a good play, this is a bad play. How do you really know your team anymore? How can you call yourself a fan if you don't know your left guard is blowing his blocking assignment against a great left defensive nose tackle, or it's just because he stinks? I mean, how do you really consider yourself a fan or an expert on your team when you don't even watch the game?
Well, you can always revert back to PFF, Pro Football Focus. Hey, there's a stat, there's a metric for everything, Mac. There's a metric for everything. Best left guard, worst left guard, best center. I mean, I've actually applied with those guys. The only reason I didn't take the job because it may affect my fantasy for my daily fantasy that I play and talk about. Nice. So it's just the way of the world now. The same thing with NBA. It's a lot of highlights and stuff. And a lot of people just don't watch the games like they used to. And even the playoff games, they don't watch that much. And I used to really watch the playoff game. Like Carlos says, he loves the misery of watching them lose.
No, I watch full football games. Like if the Jets are playing,
I can't stomach the misery.
I'll be doing something else between plays, but then I'll always look up for the play and I'll watch I'll watch complete games that way. But like certain things, like the LA Chargers, for example. You asked me, tell us, Jack, about the offensive line. I don't have a clue. All I know, Justin Herbert had a great season. And if I see he's not under a lot of pressure, I'm assuming the offensive line is doing the job. I mean, but I don't really know. Their left guard, their right guard. Most of the teams. And you hear these guys talking like experts, like they know every position player. And, good for them if they actually do, but I doubt if that's the case.
Yeah, well, again, I wasn't talking about it, San Diego Chargers. I was talking about your New York
LA
Jets.
Chargers, Mac.
Whatever they are. Something? I don't even care where they're from. I really don't. I call them the Chargers. I'm going to call them San Diego probably till the day I die, especially when I get
Jack will let you get away with it one time, but the second time.
Why did they move out of San Diego?
Because they're fickle, Jack. They're trying to get.
They already had a football team. I mean, that's not good.
The Raiders went there. It's a place where everybody likes to go, I guess, Jack. Pretty soon you'll be seeing the Los Angeles Jets. Watch. Robert, I want to thank you again for coming in. It's a pleasure having you on, covering a bunch of variety of topics. Very knowledgeable. Folks, check him out at SportsScope, the site there. He's on all different media outlets, but he's definitely at SportsScope. every time he goes. So go ahead and check out. Great show over there, Robert. Thank you for coming
Thanks,
in.
guys. Have a good one.
You too, my friend. So there you go, Jack. Robert Butler, always enjoy visiting with him, and he does a great job with us and on his show. So, folks, we got one more official break coming up here. We will be back with Anthony Servino, talk about a guy that knows football, fantasy, regular football. The man has quite a show over there at Fantasy Football Face-Off. So stick with us. We'll be right back after these few messages.
If you served honorably in our nation's armed forces and you're looking for a way to continue serving your fellow veterans in your community, then join AMVETS. Each year, AMVETS members volunteer millions of hours at VA healthcare facilities from coast to coast, helping to improve the lives of their fellow veterans through the VA Voluntary Services Program. AMVETS posts and departments also participate in a wide variety of community service projects, ranging from Americanism in our schools to supporting the Special Olympics and Boy Scouts of America. If you no longer wear the uniform today, you can still serve through the AMVETS by joining today at amvets.org.
We all make choices. When it comes to alcohol, kids make choices whether to drink or not.
Bye-bye. Remember, I'm going to Alex's party tonight and sleeping over.
Hey, have a seat for a second. Remind me about that party again.
Alex is just
And adults make choices whether to talk about it. That's true of parents and every other trusted adult in a kid's life. Kids want to know our expectations when it comes to alcohol and other drugs. They want guidance and honest answers to their questions. And it makes a difference when the message is consistent and part of everyday conversations. So talk with your kids and help lead them on a positive path. Because when you talk, they hear you. For more information about talking with your kids about underage use of alcohol and other drugs, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
When you hear the word asthma, you probably think of shortness of breath, coughing, or inhalers. Lots of things can trigger asthma, but the fact is that asthma doesn't just attack, it can kill. But with proper medical management, asthma is controllable. If you experience shortness of breath, wheezing, tightness in your chest, or persistent nighttime coughing, you may have asthma. See your doctor and get the facts. You'll breathe easier. For more information, call 211 InfoLine. A message from the Connecticut Department of Public Health, keeping Connecticut healthy.
If you talk and they will hear you every single time.
Now we're getting killed.
Yeah, well, Kyle's not here.
How come?
Kicked off the team. Didn't Tim tell you? Kyle and some other kids got caught drinking beer in the park a couple of nights ago.
Really?
Yeah, zero tolerance. He's out for the season.
Come on, it's the first offense, right?
That we know of. But why should that matter? He knew not to drink. I made it clear to Matt, that's what we expect from him. What have you said to Tim?
Nothing really. You know, a lot of kids try it at this age, so.
Yeah, well, a lot of kids don't try it too. I'm not saying that Matt's going to be this perfect kid, but if I don't tell him what we expect and why he shouldn't drink, how's he going to know?
You think kids that age really listen?
They never admit it, though, but they hear more than you think.
Talk. They hear you. For more information about talking with kids about underage drinking, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
Try.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the Mac and Jack Sports Show. We're live Wednesday through Sunday, 8 to 10 a.m. I'm your host, Mac, with your co-host, the legendary boxing writer, Jack Hirsch. And Jack, backstage right now, we got one of my favorite guests. He's our fantasy football expert / NFL analyst who comes in every Sunday with us, giving us some great information as far as the NFL news and what's going on as far as the draft and all that kind of stuff. He's with Fantasy Football Face-Off. Join him. Join his show. It's a great show. And, he's on Periscope, too. They do a heck of a job over there. So let's bring Anthony up. How you doing today, Anthony?
I'm doing great, guys. How are you?
Hey,
Not too
Anthony,
bad.
A lot
Not
to
too bad
talk
at all.
about.
Yeah, we do. Anthony, of course, we know the free agency went crazy, and it looked like the Patriots and the Giants really went nuts, filling a lot of slots and getting more firepower. And now we got the draft coming up. We got the pro day. We got the combine. These scouts are looking at tape of their college playing. You have the all-star games that they look at them too. What are your thoughts as far as why this sometimes doesn't translate to the NFL? I mean, they got so much information on these guys. They interview them, they check their knowledge, and like I said, they're all over them on these spectacles where they're out there throwing the ball or running with the ball. They got the timings, their weight, how much they can lift, how high they can jump. But it always seems that there's busts when they come around and they draft these players.
I'm not an expert on this kind of stuff, but I would like to think a lot of it has to do what's above the shoulders in your head. Players in college, like elite players, you can tell who's going to go to the next level and who's not, even in these big Division I schools. In the NFL, everybody's running your speed. Everybody's at your talent, so it's a matter of work ethic. Are you putting the time in? Maybe the money you're coming into. I know, I was never had a professional athlete salary at 20 years old, but once you get your first real job out of college or high school, you're making some money. I made bad decisions. So imagine what these guys are doing with the $1 million contract. So
right.
I think all of it plays in.
I mean, there was
I like to think about what you guys can remember: Ryan Leaf and Peyton Manning. If you ever hear the story about their pre-draft interview, if we take you, what are you going to do, Peyton Manning? And he gives a Peyton Manning answer, and Ryan Leaf's like, "I'm going to Vegas." and supposedly that's why they took Manning over Ryan Leaf, number one, because of Ryan Leaf's answer. I'm going to Vegas.
I mean, I like, for instance, the big controversy with the Giants drafting Daniel Jones versus Haskins, right? Everybody wanted Haskins because of that one great year he had, right? I mean, he set the league on fire in that 1 year. And then Washington takes him, and the Giant fans are mad. And we find out that, Haskins really doesn't have it. So, as you said, I would imagine that the take can lie sometimes. Is who you're playing with, what the team consists of down there, who their competition is. I mean, all this stuff should be taken into consideration before you make that draft.
Landing spot, especially like you bring up, I think Mac Jones is one of the more polarizing names outside of the big 3 or 4 quarterbacks. And he's played around NFL caliber talent. Look at his receivers. He played with 4 receivers that, 2 are going to go in the first round this year, 2 went last year. The offensive line, he never played, he's never really played with a deficit. So to me, Mac Jones, if he goes to a team like the Jacksonville Jaguars, which he's not, I don't know if he can overcome that. But if he goes to New England, where he's going to get the coaching, he's going to get everything around him he needs to succeed, I think Mac Jones will succeed. Put him on a bad team coming out, I think he's going to struggle.
Now that you got on basically the NFL draft, any possibility, I know it might seem slim, that Jacksonville was wowed by Zach Wilson's workout at Pro Day, and they just might possibly shake things up and take him ahead of Trevor Lawrence? I know it's a long shot, but do you think that they're seriously talking about it?
This also could be, let's try to drive up a trade. Let's see if the Jets will move up one spot. Let's pretend we like Zach Wilson. All this stuff's going to start coming out now, but anything can happen in the NFL draft. You think it's going to go one way and then it goes another way, or it's like, like last year it was Joe Burrow. It was always going to be Joe Burrow. But with the way Jacksonville's doing things with Urban Meyer, would it surprise me if they make a move and go after Wilson? Absolutely not.
Now, I'm not convinced about Tua. I mean, I've said this a lot. I mean, do you really think it was a good move by Miami to let Fitzpatrick go? I mean, I know there's a controversy in the locker room, Anthony, with a lot of players liked and wanted Fitzpatrick to be the starting quarterback, and he came in and bailed Tua out a few games. Now they're saying that we're all in on Tua. We're letting Fitzpatrick go. We got our draft picks. I mean, Tua, he doesn't look as mobile as he did in college. He had a great team. He's accurate for sure, but he's had games. He's been brought along slow. It is his first year, but I mean, they turned to Fitzpatrick to bail him out. Herbert didn't have that, right? You talk about Burrows. Burrows didn't have that. They said, "Here's the wheels to the car, drive it." Tua didn't get that last year. So, what do you think about the move of letting Fitzpatrick sign somewhere else?
I don't like it. I understand it if you really believe Tua's your guy, and it looks like they might believe that. I don't believe it. I'm not buying into Tua. And all I know is Miami, you better be right, because everything else, it seems like, is going to work. The defense, Will Fuller, the offense is coming along. If you don't have quarterback right, you're not going anywhere. And guess what? New England's a better football team now. Buffalo's a good football team. What's going to happen with the Jets if Saleh's a competent head coach? Like the window's very small in this league. You better be right on Tua. I would not have let Fitzpatrick go, but I understand it if you truly want to go all in on this kid.
Anthony, I'm missing something here, because had Tua not been injured, he probably would have went number 1 overall to Cincinnati, but they had injury concerns. He played last year. He didn't play poorly, okay? For a rookie, he was okay. Not as good as Burrow or Herbert was, but he was okay. So I don't see people being down on him. I think it's only in comparison to the great rookie seasons that Herbert and Burrow had that people are a little down on Tua. I think he's going to be fine, and I think Miami is going about it the right way, building around them. And as far as Fitzpatrick goes, there's a reason he's been kicking around so many teams over his NFL career. If he was really the guy, he would have stuck somewhere.
Yeah, and I agree on that with Fitzpatrick. He's been around a long, long time. And it wasn't until he landed with the Jets where he really started getting an opportunity to start. And at that point, we thought his career was over. And he's still hanging around. So I get it. He's not the long-term answer, but I don't know if Tua is either.
Yeah. I mean, I think they may, even with all those draft picks, they may sink with that decision. Maybe not, but we'll find out. Do you think they go for another quarterback in the draft?
It depends on what's there at 6, because they made that big move at San Francisco. They traded back, and then they flipped with the Philadelphia Eagles and moved back up to the number 6 pick. If there's a quarterback that falls, maybe they're anticipating one of those top 4 quarterbacks to be there at 6. It would not surprise me at all if they went that direction. I can see them drafting a Kyle Pitts at tight end and pairing him with Mike Gesicki. Because all of a sudden, those weapons for Tua or whatever quarterback's going to be there, let's say if you go Kyle Pitts, Mike Gesicki, Devontae Parker, and then you signed Will Fuller, all of a sudden, just like we were saying about Daniel Jones last week, no more excuses. This is going to be a no-excuse season for Tua if you put all that around him.
But why are the other quarterbacks like Daniel Jones? He's had 2 years in the league. Sam Darnold's had 3 years in the league, and there are people saying stick with him, give him more of a chance. Tua basically has had a half season where he's played. Okay, 1 year in the league, and this is now make or break. How come he's not given a little more of a cushion the way the other guys are?
Because the other guys weren't hyped. And this is media driven. This is us driven, really. Where like Tua, we talk about him like he was going to be the second coming if he didn't have the injury. We didn't talk about Daniel Jones or Sam Darnold like they were going to be anything special.
Daniel Jones was drafted higher than Tua. He went number 3 overall. The Jets
but it's the hype.
3 second rounders.
Nobody was saying what you just said. Well, if the injury didn't happen, the Cincinnati Bengals would have taken Tua over Joe Burrow. Nobody was taking Daniel Jones that high. Yeah. So it's a lot of it's hype.
I agree with that. I mean, and plus, Tua wasn't available or Burrows wasn't available when they were at number 6 too. I mean, you gotta see what's there at 6. It's not as much talent as there were the last 2 years anyway. So you mentioned Zach Wilson, and Miami changes the drafting order, sending 3 to the 49ers. What do you think the 49ers do? Are they gonna keep their Super Bowl quarterback 2 years ago, or are they? Is he on thin ice over there, Anthony?
I think Jimmy Garoppolo has been on thin ice since that Super Bowl. It's just a matter of they couldn't find something that they liked enough to replace him with. He has a really good win-loss record, but he can't stay healthy. I think that's a big issue. 2 out of the past 3 seasons, Jimmy Garoppolo missed a ton of time. And really, that's why the 49ers are not in a better position. They're saying that Jimmy Garoppolo's our guy this year. I can buy it. I do think they're drafting a quarterback. Maybe they draft a quarterback and it's almost like a Alex Smith, Patrick Mahomes situation. But then they could also see a situation where they draft a quarterback and ship Garoppolo to New England.
Yeah.
But if San Francisco 49ers are certainly drafting a quarterback.
Deal to move down from number 12 to 49ers, to move down from number 12 to number 3, trade with Miami and give up their number 1 draft picks the next 2 years after that. That's a bold move to get either Justin Fields or Trey Lawrence, unless they're going for Mac Jones. I mean, obviously that's a bold move.
It's bold, and I think that they know that their Super Bowl window to strike is now. Especially somebody like Kyle Shanahan and how what's the word? And how people look at him to be the next great head coach. Go get if you feel like your Tom Brady is in this draft class, then go get him. Because next year, all I'm hearing is the quarterbacks aren't going to be as good coming out.
There was one small move made that I think is very big. Deshaun Jackson going to the LA Rams. I mean, what an offense. They're giving Stafford some great weapons in his first year for the Rams. Because right there, he has Woods and Kups at receiver. And now to add in Deshaun Jackson and Cam Akers at running back. I mean, they're going to be a force offensively. And defensively, we know how good they are.
I love Deshaun Jackson. My issue with Deshaun Jackson is just like what a lot of guys is health. In the past 2 seasons, he's played a total of 8 games. Going back to his 2 years in Tampa Bay before that, he missed 4. So he missed 4 games in 2018, and that's really Deshaun Jackson's career is health. But if you can get Deshaun Jackson for 8 games, and in those 8 games he's making plays to help you win, then that's fine.
And you really nailed it last year, Anthony. Kudos to you. You picked the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to win the Super Bowl. Before the year they won the Super Bowl, you nailed it. Congratulations. And they're keeping their team intact so that they're the favorites to repeat again.
Yes. And I'm picking them to win it again. They're keeping everybody. I don't know. I think they lost a safety, like a backup safety. Like they kept everybody, and they're probably going to re-sign Antonio Brown too. Like I've never seen. I don't know. Maybe you guys can. I've never seen any team kept together like this, where you have, obviously Brady's going to rework his deal. Mike Evans in the past has reworked his deal before Brady got there. When you have that type of leadership and that front office is aggressive, and you have players willing to maybe take a little bit less.
Yeah, the only teams I can remember, and this was back before free agency was huge, though, Anthony. You know what I mean? Right. You talk about the Steelers and the Cowboys, stuff like. But that was way before free agency was the way it is now. So you have these deals being made. The Eagles. I asked this to Robert. Do you think the Eagles are the worst team in the league next year? I don't think they really know what they're doing. I think they're scrapping everything, if you want to say that's what they're doing. And, they're just going to start from scratch. But that puts the coach and GM in a bad situation. I mean, the Eagle fans aren't going to put up with a 3-year terrible seasons from that for their team.
Yes and no. They just won a Super Bowl. So I still think that the Eagles fans could still ride that high and go through a rebuild a little bit and maybe not be as destructive as they normally would have been. But Philly, they don't have a clue. I don't think they have a clue about what they're doing. They were in a position at the 6th pick to possibly go get a quarterback if you don't believe in Jalen Hurts. They moved back. They traded that back. Now they're sitting at 12. To me, okay, we're going to roll with Jalen Hurts now. Is that the right move?
I don't think so.
There's nothing about them putting their faith in Hurts because he did play well on balance for a rookie his first year. And they moved from number 6 down to number 12, where they could get a very good player at number 12, non-quarterback, of course.
Right.
Unless they like Mac Jones, he should be there at that point. And they got an additional number 1 draft pick for next year. So I think that was a decent deal for the Eagles. I don't think they were looking to get another quarterback to compete with Hurts.
Considering all the holes on that team, because if you look, they gutted their roster was old. And Deshaun Jackson, Alshon Jeffrey, they're gone. Those contracts are gone. A lot of their older players with they're gone now, and I think they are going to be in a rebuild for a year or two, which is fine. You need to because yes, they won a Super Bowl, but I don't think they planned ahead correctly with the age of their players on both sides of the ball and their contracts. So they were in salary cap issues. Your older players can't stay on the field. I mean, it was bad.
I miss Zach Ertz. Did he go anywhere? Is he going anywhere?
I think he's going. I don't know, but I don't think he's back. I think that relationship is torn. It's just a matter of what the Eagles want back. I think they want maybe a little too much back, and I think they'll squeeze this until the NFL draft.
Yeah.
Do you see any significance in Sammy Watkins going to Baltimore? A very good wide receiver, but do they have the quarterback to put the ball there? Is the question I got. Anthony.
I'm one of the few out there that I feel like I love this move for the Baltimore Ravens.
Yeah.
Fantasy football people, they tend to think with production and numbers. I think with a football head first. And if you think about what Sammy Watkins isn't a big time volume alpha number 1. He's not Julio Jones. Sammy Watkins is a playmaker. He doesn't need a lot of targets to be successful. And if you think about his best year was 2015, his second year in the league. 2015. He played in 13 games, caught 60 balls for 1,047 yards, 9 touchdowns. Similar offense to Baltimore. You had Tyrod Taylor, LaShawn McCoy running the football, and then you had the play action deep passes to Sammy Watkins. The offensive coordinator for that team was Greg Roman. Guess who the offensive coordinator is for the Baltimore Ravens? Greg Roman. I think this is a perfect landing spot. Now he's not gonna put up Pro Bowl numbers, but he's gonna be a difference maker to get Baltimore to that next level in the postseason. If he's healthy.
Lamar Jackson wasn't too happy with Greg Roman, his offensive coordinator last year. I guess they probably straightened it out. And Sammy Watkins, I think, is a great addition for the Ravens.
Me too.
Wasn't Sammy Watkins on didn't he play in 3 out of the past 4 Super Bowls?
I think
17 with the
Rams. Yeah, he re-upped with Kansas City last year because he loved the idea. But
did the Rams make it in 2017 or 2018? Because I know Sammy was with the Rams in 2017.
2017. With the Rams against the Patriots, right? If I'm not mistaken.
I remember him being part of that team, but I could be wrong.
If I'm not mistaken, if I know the Rams played, I think they played the Patriots the year before that, right? Before the Eagles. They won. They beat the Rams and lost to the Eagles. If I'm not mistaken.
No, that year they lost in the wild card.
Okay.
So it was the next year that they moved off of Watkins and brought in Brandon Cooks. But still, Sammy Watkins has been on productive teams.
Well, people forget when Sammy Watkins came out of college, Buffalo gave up an extra number 1 draft choice, as I recall,
Right.
to get Sammy Watkins. So when we think of teams that give up extra number 1s, we should do a historical run through to see how that really worked out. Yeah.
I mean, he's a great player. I'll tell you that, and very, very impactful on the field. They let Trubisky go from Chicago. They signed Andy Dalton. They got Foles backing him up right now. And I would imagine Foles might move, or we'll see what happens with that. I mean, Dalton, of course, is an experienced quarterback, maybe a little bit more accurate than Trubisky, but not as athletic. That's for sure, Anthony. What do you think about that move?
I like Andy Dalton more than most. I think he's a good quarterback. Is he good enough to take a team to the next level? I don't know. Is he an upgrade over what they had? I would say yes, if the offensive line gets better, because as you noted, Trubisky's more mobile and he was able to overcome poor offensive line play. If they can protect Andy Dalton, I think there's enough around him with the 2 tight ends, Kmet, Jimmy Graham, assuming they hold on to Jimmy Graham. You have Allen Robinson. You have really good running backs. You got Tarek Cohen coming back from injury, David Montgomery, and they signed Damian Williams from Kansas City. This should be a good football team. I think they're going to be better than what people think. It's just a matter of offensive line blocking for Dalton, because Dalton played, all things considered, last year in Dallas with all of their offensive line injuries. It took him a little bit, but towards the end of the year, Andy Dalton was playing okay football.
Yeah, I think Dalton is a very, I don't know if he's great, but he's a very good quarterback. And as you said, if they could protect him, he's definitely more accurate than Trubisky. We'll see what happens with that. Last question before you go, Anthony. And, I've been watching the Raiders since Gruden got there. And it looked like they had a plan, and then they turned around, and now it don't look like they have a plan. And, he's got 5 different quarterbacks. And, is this – are the Raiders going to regret signing Gruden, giving him all that money?
See, I'm one who believe I think Gruden's an overrated coach altogether. Even his Super Bowl win, that was Tony Dungy's defense. That was Tony Dungy's team. I'm one of them. I think Gruden's a great football head, a great football mind. He's better as a broadcaster than he is on the sideline. I don't like the way he manages in-game decisions. I'm not a fan of John Gruden, and they gave him a long contract, and it looks like he's taking his sweet time putting a winner together. I don't think it's working.
Yeah, I mean,
even Mayock, like Mike Mayock, you would think he's gonna, he's a draft guy. They're not really, are they drafting that well?
I was puzzled. I thought when they originally started Gruden, he would be given complete say over all organizational decisions. I'm not sure if that's the case, because Mike Mayock, I get the feeling, has a lot of authority.
Oh,
so why would Gruden accept a rated job if he wasn't given complete say? But the point you made about that being Tony Dungy's team, to an extent, you were correct. But keep that in mind. The team that Tampa Bay beat that year was the Oakland Raiders. So I could say that was Gruden's team that went to the Super Bowl. I can make that argument as well, even though he wasn't the coach.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Yeah, but again, it seemed like he was trying to get a physical offensive line, maybe run the ball more, and then they start getting rid of their offensive linemen. I don't know if this is a switch in his philosophy, or he just I don't get the thought process.
They're going to be running the football. They signed Kenyon Drake when you already have Josh Jacobs. So we're going to see a lot of running of the football with the Raiders. They're also going to use Kenyon Drake, he was underutilized as a receiver last year with Arizona. They're going to line him up all over the formation. I think they're trying to maybe do too much trickery. Like, go get yourself a wide receiver. Don't try to put a bona fide running back in the slot. I think they're trying to he's trying to be too cute sometimes.
Yeah, that's a lot of problems with the offensive coordinators. They put it on the blackboard, they look at it, they say, that looks beautiful. but to make it work on the field is two different things. And I've had experience with offensive coordinators before. So, again, Anthony, thank you for stopping in. I mean, we love going over the NFL with you. Again, folks, check him out at Fantasy Football Face-Off. He's got his own site on Facebook, and, of course, he has a great show over there on Periscope. Anthony, have a great Sunday, and we'll see you again next week, my friend.
Likewise, guys. See you later.
Take care, Anthony.
So there you go again, Jack, having Anthony Servino up there.
And he
with
went
all
out on the limb before anyone else. He gave his NFL Super Bowl prediction for next year, Tampa Bay to repeat.
Yeah, there you go. Well, Jack, that's not a hard pick. So, I mean, last year maybe. This year, they're
Give the man credit.
All right, Jack.
Yeah, I at least congratulated him.
All right.
Okay? Give him credit.
I'll give him credit. Folks, I want to thank you for stopping in again with us on our Sunday review, end of week review here on the Mac and Jack Sports Show. Next week, we got some big guests coming up again, Jack. I'll get the promotions out there in social media. We got a former IBO. Was he the first IBO lightweight, or was it IBF?
What's his name? Paul Malignaggi.
Yes.
Call him former world champ and leave it at that.
Two-time world champion, Jack. You give him credit. And again, folks, we're on Northeast Streaming Sports. Check out that. We're on Zodiac TV. Check that out. We're all over the place. Great having you with us. You have a great day, Jack. Enjoy your Sunday, a couple days off.